Oh yeah, hello. Um, Another podcast regarding what's going on at our club at the moment in terms of football. Um, we've had, as we all know, like a pretty poor run of results, and we've got a game coming up against Coventry City on Friday. And if you ask me to sort of predict this game or to have any idea about how it's going to go, I wouldn't really have a clue at this point. The other thing I don't think I would have a clue about would be team selection. Um, I'm not quite sure where we go with the way Wayne Rooney's playing. I mean, he plays this really aggressive press, which we're struggling to cope with. I think the club just the team itself doesn't look comfortable with. And I've been an advocate of this particular kind of tactic because it's a really exciting tactic to use if it's working. You can see some of the advantages of it. I think someone said this morning. I put a post on about this morning, which is really what's triggered me doing this little podcast. And someone said about us defending, and stuff. But we haven't got a defensive structure the way we play. There's no emphasis on defence at all. I mean, there's no game when we have started the game and tried to defend, like defended from the off. We've done it before with when John Eustace was here because John Eustace used to quite enjoy that game, particularly away from home, where we soak up the pressure and hit them on the break, and it worked quite well for us. Um, but we haven't seen it with Rooney at all because it isn't in the way he's thinking. He's not thinking about setting up like that. And it sort of takes all the emphasis off any defensive work. And even in terms of the defenders, it makes them think about uh, playing an attacking role and not about defending. And I think this could be part of what the issue is. There's no sort of defensive thought put into it. I'm not sure what Ashley Cole does and John O'Shea. They're both like world class defenders, and but Ashley Cole was obviously a fullback that used to get forward an awful lot. Um, I remember him for that. I mean, he was very good at playing the way we probably want to play now. It wasn't really a tactic that was used then, but Ashley Cole would always get forward. John O'Shea, big strong defender, could play the ball out. But I wonder if there isn't enough attention given to defensive work when they're when at the training ground. You have to excuse me. I've got there's a bit of a lurgy thing going around here. A little bit of cough and a bit of a sore throat, which I've had for about 2 weeks. No mind. Um, so I was thinking about this and I thought, well, it's obvious to me that all of the tactical work goes into this aggressive press because the defence is involved in that aggressive press. So what would be fed into the defence, into their mind all the time, would be moving forward with the ball and getting it forward. That's the main objective of the defence, and John Ruddy to follow them out. So in a defensive way, I don't think they'll be discussing things too much, but they would probably be discussing it when we're out of position, out of possession, and what positions do the back four take up, and that depends on sort of the phase of play that we're in. If we're right up and pressing and attacking, then those four defenders are going to be probably in the opposition half or on the edge of our, or the two centre backs on the sort of halfway line, and then the only feature of defending then comes from either stopping the ball being played through us or the long ball over the top. And if that happens, then it's basically a race to whoever gets the ball first. So I'm wondering if, like, what we used to see when John Eustace was manager, and forgive me for banging on about him because I'm not under the illusion he's ever going to come back or anything. I didn't think he was a saviour of blues or anything like that. But I'm just going back to a recent time, so think about it. The defence was well drilled. You know, they all covered each other. They all knew what job to do when they were defending. With this kind of attacking play, the Blues are adopting, the defence is completely different thing altogether. You know, because it isn't really an important part of the game, so to speak. You know, so they're always caught. But you know, we're always going to get caught if we're on the front foot by a break. And what happens is, or what has happened, is that we've found ourselves, although we've been attacking a lot, you know, I think we have majority of possession against Blackburn, I think. But we have had majority of possession in a lot of games this season, which never used to happen before. And I think something Tom Wagner said on the in the open house was, one of the figures he used was teams that go up usually are teams that have majority of possession in games. So, all right, and that's something that he's obviously looked at, and that's one box we've ticked. We've also ticked the high pressing game. We play that. Those are two factors that tend to be adopted by teams that get promoted. The box that we're not ticking is getting enough points to be promoted. That's the important box. The other boxes don't matter. So this new way of playing, I don't think suits this defence at all. I don't think any of them. I think probably Buchanan has played in that way under Rooney. I don't think Sanderson. Obu may have done it with Cremonese. They were relegated last season. He was in that back four, and my guess would be that they played a fairly sound, normal back four, the way that the Italians do. Ethan Laird last season had a weird season because he was at QPR. He was injured. He came back. He was on the bench. He was out of favour. He had a bit of a fallout with the club. He didn't have a very good season last season. And then we got Cody Drama, who didn't really play for Leeds last season. He was on the bench. Now, in that respect, we've got a pretty sort of inexperienced back four, although all of them have played quite a lot of football. They haven't been playing that recently. And we've noticed, of course, that Ethan Laird tends to be a little bit injury prone. He picks up injuries fairly easily. Someone else we have to be careful with Buchanan too. We've seen him go missing, not go missing, but get injured once already this season. And we're back down to two fullbacks now that Ethan Laird's injured. The other question that keeps coming up is, where's Kevin Long gone? Yeah, I don't know where he's gone. I heard that he had a calf injury, I know, probably a month ago. But when the injury updates come up, he's never mentioned on them. So, you know, there were rumours about Kevin Long having a fallout with Ashley Cole. I mean, I don't know how true it is. You know, I honestly don't know. But he does seem to have just gone missing, doesn't he, Kevin Long? I don't think he doesn't fit this sort of way that we play anyway. And neither does Roberts. You know, these two are pretty standard championship defenders. They can clear the ball, they can head it clear, they can tackle, but they're never going to bring the ball out of defence. They're not going to pass. They're not going to make 20-yard passes, you know. So they don't really fit the style of play. And in a lot of ways, I don't think that Sanderson does, because he will bring the ball out. He's more confident in that way, and he's an athlete. But again, he's not one that I think is going to hit passes and that, you know. And I've seen him on Saturday against Rotherham. He was sort of hovering in between, like our halfway line, and not knowing whether to go that little bit forward, and then he dropped back, and then this is when we're attacking. You know, so they have to be decisive about how they're going to play, you know. I mean, if the ball goes wide and Sanderson can get up, he's got a bit of height, he goes up, someone covers him, you know. That's the way this system works. It interchanges. That's why the front four, when we pick those four at the front, it doesn't really matter whether you play one right, one left, two in the middle, because they all switch positions. We've seen it a lot with Stansfield. I think Stansfield's getting marginalised now, to be honest. We're not using him to the best of his ability. He was playing sort of as a central striker and coming off right or left. A lot of his goals are scored just inside the box, right-footed, taking the ball, giving the ball 2 touches and hitting it. He's not getting that opportunity anymore. Stansfield sometimes now is looking more like a winger, and it gets congested then. We've seen it on Saturday. Ethan Laird was wide, Stansfield was in front of him, Mayashi was there, and then there's a big gap in the middle where there's no one, you know. And we've seen a few times where balls have been crossed and there's just no one in the middle because the players don't really positionally understand where they have to be. And Stansfield's hunting the ball out on the right. You know, we've already got someone there. It'll be Drama now coming wide. We've got a player that's supposed to be playing right side of midfield. But like I said, they interchange. But if they don't understand that they interchange, you're going to end up with a lot of players in one area. And it often happens on the right-hand side. We do, you know, Dembele does tend to stay wide left. But the other three all seem to come across, you know. You see Bacuna on the right a lot. Bacuna's a little bit of I don't know, like we don't. Sometimes he's absolutely fantastic. Other times he's very, very frustrating. He still, I don't think, can get out of him the fact that at times he cannot afford to piss about with the ball when he's got it. You know, we see him sometimes with 2 players on him, instead of doing the easy thing, kicking against a player, getting a throw in, he'll try and backheel it and turn or do a little pirouette and get between the 2 of them. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work. We're going to lose possession. And the whole thing about the way Rooney plays is it has to be possession-based. The minute we lose possession, it's like someone saying to me the other day, you know, well, instead of our players pissing about with it on the edge of the box, why don't they just clear it? They don't clear it because they're told not to clear it. And when this person said pissing about on the edge of the box with the ball, what it meant was being pressed by the opposition, because it's all right us pressing, but other teams do it as well. So when Sanderson and Ayew have got that ball in the middle and they receive a pass and they get pressed, they have to know what to do, and doesn't seem like they've got the ability to do it. You know, what you need in that position is for the fullbacks and the 2 centre backs to put a space between themselves and make long passes. We've seen it, I think I mentioned it before, against Hull City, when Ayew was Long and Sanderson were literally 6 feet between them, and they were just passing the ball back and forth between each other while 2 Hull City players snapped at the heels. They just didn't know what to do, you know. And that's what happens with this game when you have players that can't play it, because when that ball comes to the centre half in that position, he has to make a fast decision and pass it straight away. The minute you put your foot on the ball in that position, when a team presses high like we do, and we've seen it when we do it to other teams, you get caught with the ball. And if you get caught with the ball in that position, it can lead to a goal, obviously. You know, so the passing has to be slick and fast, even across the back 4. And when we're defending like that, then the 2 fullbacks have to make themselves available to receive passes. It wasn't too bad against Rotherham at times, because we did see Buchanan coming wide for simple passes from Ruddy, and Ethan Laird perhaps not so much, but when we had Drama come on, he made himself more available. I think those 2 are sort of more used to it. You know, Ruddy's distribution wasn't great on Saturday again, but you know, I think he looked pretty sound in goal. But that back 4 and the way we play defensively is the thing that worries me, and it's what's making us weak. You know, we can score goals, we've seen it, and that the back 4 is definitely an issue. And you know, the goalkeeper, I mean, what do we do? Do we stick or twist with Ruddy? He's starting to make a few mistakes, which isn't like Ruddy, you know. But when you're playing in front, and when you've got 2 centrals playing in front of you that are confident at the moment and are making mistakes, it affects your game. I'm absolutely sure of that. We've also, of course, now, you know, we've got the added thing with injuries, haven't we? You know, I mean, we've got Ethan Laird out now. We don't know how long that's going to be for. Hopefully, it's not going to be a couple of months like it was last time. But Laird is a little bit injury prone, and that's why we only paid $500,000 for him. He's a great player when he plays. Honestly, don't know what's happened to Tyler Roberts. I don't know. It would be nice to have another option up front at the moment because we're running out of options. We've got Hogan on the bench, but it's pointless playing Hogan. He doesn't play this kind of game. His game's not expansive enough. If we play Hogan, he's going to be in one position, static in the middle. The way we play, if you're going to have someone static in the middle, they've got to be big. We haven't got any height up front. This is why Ollie Burke keeps being selected. And Duke's even getting the odd start because we haven't got any height. If you look at the forwards, when we go forward, if we haven't got Duke or Burke playing, it's absolutely pointless trying to put anything above shoulder height in the box because we're always going to lose it. So it's got to be slick on the ground passing and shots from around inside and around the edge of the box, which is great. But when you get the game slowed down, sometimes the way Bakuna does and sometimes the way Dembele does, and Moyashi when he plays, because they want to go past players, this way of playing doesn't suit that particular way of doing things. Once you go into a player, come back, beat him once, beat him twice, the defence is back, you forget it, you've only got four of you there. Sunic and Bielik on the edge of the box. That's it then. That element of surprise has gone. The way you're supposed to do that with that high press is win the ball, 1, 2, 3 passes, bang in the net. You don't put your foot on it. You don't take it past people. If you watch teams like Man City play this way, obviously we're talking about a totally different animal, but that's, it's one touch and it's quick and it's effective and it's all right. It's like having, a Ford Focus and expecting it to drive like a Lamborghini. It ain't going to happen. So you've got to adjust your game to the players you've got. So Laird and Tyler Roberts are out. Like we said, Long, not really 100% sure about that, And also, I wonder, how the coaching is going, because we've got Mike Taylor coaching John Ruddy and Neil Etheridge. I'd love to be a fly on the wall and hear the conversation between those three, and what their opinion of it is, because you've got, you got Etheridge, I think he's better with his feet in terms of, I don't mean with his kicking, his long kicking isn't very good, but he can pass the ball. Etheridge has got a little bit of confidence with his feet, but he doesn't command his box very well, and it's the other way around with Ruddy. And those three keepers, like with Mike Taylor, they must be thinking, there's not another keeper waiting to come in at the moment. What are they going to do? I think if I was one of those keepers, I'd know that. Well, I'd know Neil Etheridge knows that his days are numbered. Ruddy, I think he was going to go to Luton earlier in the season, and I think I think those two keepers will be going very shortly, one way or another. And I think January there might be a bit of manoeuvring going on to move the keepers on and get a keeper in. We have got, actually, I was wrong when I said it before, but we have got one loan left. So whether that might be a lone goalkeeper, I don't know. Do we risk the keepers we've got and bring a loan in somewhere else, or do we try and sell someone and bring in enough money to buy a player? I don't know who we're going to sell. January is quiet anyway. People don't look to make big signings in January. The opportunity to perhaps move on Hogan, Roberts, Etheridge might free up a little bit of money, but that's something that we'll have to wait and see. Going back to the coaching, like I said, rumours of conflicts, and you get the feeling at the moment. Like I didn't have this feeling a few weeks ago, but I've got this feeling now that all isn't happy within the camp. Within the dressing room, that's a feeling I get now. Because it looks increasingly to me like Wayne Rooney is conflicted himself in the way he's thinking, and you can hear that in what he says. Before he was very definite about what he said, and I believe that he said on several occasions now that the players can't play out from the back. So it's given them the choice of either playing out if they can or playing it long if they can't. Well, that's just handing over his responsibility to the players. So in other words, if they try and play it out and get caught, then it's an easy comeback to say, well, they just can't play that way. Why do they do it? And if they clear the ball long, it's like, well, they're playing the old system and they don't want to play the system that I want in place. It's not fair to put that responsibility on the players. In my opinion, the manager should impress that, what he wants, onto those players, not say, go on the pitch, and when you get out there, you decide. That isn't their job. Their job is to do what you tell them to do. The online coaching as well, it's difficult to make yourself heard when you're standing on the touchline, obviously, but you relay things to players that are near to you. And I think sometimes the in-game management isn't good. And one of the reasons in-game management isn't good is because we haven't got a captain on the pitch. Sanderson, to me, at the moment, he can do without that captaincy, and he doesn't, to be honest, he doesn't embrace that, and he doesn't. He's not captain material, particularly at the moment. He's not. His game's been affected. He's not playing well. The last thing he needs is a captaincy, and he doesn't do it anyway. You can see that. There's no leadership on the pitch. We need some leadership on the pitch. Then you've got like the choice of those two that sit in front of the back four. There's an argument about Ivan Sunic, should he play? I think ideally in this setup, he wouldn't play because he's not that one-touch fast player. Even in front of the back four, you need that as an outlet sometimes. But I think we missed him against Blackburn. I think that's half the reason Blackburn just played through us sometimes like we weren't there, because you haven't got Sunic putting his foot in and stopping and playing. And that's what Sunic does best. He's a little ratter, isn't he? And then if we play him in that role, who do we play him with? For me, if we're playing away, I'd play Christian Bielik with him, because Bielik's a lot more defensive and he's fairly big. He adds height. We're not a big team. Bielik's height does come into the equation. But of course, then if we play Bielik, then what do we do with Jordan James, who sort of plays the same role? Or do we play Bielik and James together and lose that ratting ability that Sunic has? And then the other one is Bacuna. He's an enigma, isn't he? I wouldn't want to play Bacuna and James together, because it's too lightweight. So those two together is out of the question for me. But Bacuna goes missing too much when he's in that role. His way of playing is to move, is to go forward. And when he goes forward, we've seen it before when he's played that role with Christian Bielik. And then people say, Bielik was all over the place today. He's all over the place because Bacuna's left his role and suddenly Bielik has to play right and left. So I think Bielik gets a little bit of bad press sometimes because of the position that other players leave him in. So, you make your mind up out of those four. For me, it's always going to be the key, probably Bielik and, at the moment, Bielik or JJ with Sunic. That would be for me, unless at home, perhaps not so much with Sunic, Bielik and James. But I would never play. I mean, Bacuna's good because we can slot him in different places. We've seen him play right back, and to be fair to the lad, he puts a shift in. It's not his natural position. Bielik, to be honest with you, he's hard to tie down into any position. He tends to float a bit. That's why it's quite good to have him up front. But the good thing, or when I say up front with the front four, when Bielik plays in that defensive role, the good thing about it when we're playing at home is when he moves forward, it gives us almost like an extra striker or an extra attacker. And the same with James. It isn't so much with Christian Bielik, So Bacuna and James are more likely to get forward than Bielik is. Another option that I've thought of, and I mentioned it this morning in the post, was playing Christian Bielik in the back four as a central defender. He's done it before at Derby. You know, I mean, it would look quite strong, I think, with Drama on the right. I mean, you could even you can't really now because we're not going to bring Longelo back, and we're a fullback down at the moment. But you could have even had Buchanan and Bielik in the middle. You know, they both can play the ball. They're both strong. They've both played centre half before, and they both understand the position. But perhaps Bielik alongside Sanderson might help Sanderson's game. You know, Chris Bielik's a really cool character, and he's strong. He's good in the air. He can pass a ball. He can bring the ball out. Might take a few games to bed him in, you know, but that's a possibility. Buchanan at left back, you know, with Sanderson and drop Abu, or Abu's got a lot of quality, I think. I think what is lacking with him is he hasn't been given a chance to settle into the team because Sanderson has just completely gone missing. And what he needs is assistance because he's not used to, number one, he doesn't know the players that well. Number two, he's not used to that system of playing. Number three, he's playing in the English Championship. It's one of the hardest leagues in the world. And he's come from a relegated team in Italy. The lad hasn't had a chance yet, you know. So that's someone else to think, you know. The other thing is, of course, you know, we've got Donovan and Dixon who are playing out of their skins at the moment in the under-21s, and I know like Rachel covers them for us for the project, and she's impressed with them. And looking at Rachel's little bits of write-ups and that, you know, we know how good they are. Is it time to give one of them a chance? You know, we've got Hogan sitting on the bench every week, and to me, honestly, now. And I've always been a Scott Hogan supporter in terms of supporting him as a person. He doesn't deserve all the shit he gets from people, you know, just thickos, just like literally slating him for no reason. But I think we know Hogan will be going very soon. We know Dixon is a long-term player for us. You know, we have Donovan on the bench. Why don't we add Dixon to that? You know. Give these young lads a little bit of a run out when we can. We don't want to destroy them by bringing them in too soon, but they are obviously, you know, options, aren't they? So there's a lot of things to think about there, really, about how we play this aggressive press. Someone said to me on a post this morning, they wanted to know what I would do. You know, well, it doesn't really matter what I would do, but if it does interest you, what I would do at the moment was I would be reverting back to a flat back four, and possibly with four across the middle, playing two wingers and two up front. You know, Stansfield probably with one other up front playing off him, and then we could have, you know, you've got the option then of probably. So you'd have your two wingers, I don't know, Dembele and Moyashi. You could have James and Bielik in the middle, and then you could have Dembele and you could have Stansfield and one other up front. You know, I don't know, whoever you fancy, you choose. To me, it makes more sense to play like that at the moment because we're shipping goals. The back four don't understand what they're doing. And the way, and with that particular way of playing, with the two up front, you can make it almost like a 4-2-4. So you would end up with Bielik and Sunic sitting in front of the back four, and then you'd have the four flooding forward again. You know, and what you can do with that, and we've seen John Eustace do it a few times, particularly in the opening game against Swansea, is put the high press on the back four using our four players that play in front of Bielik and or Sunic or JJ, you know. So it's a much more structured game. The back four would play a traditional back four role. So you wouldn't have to press, the fullbacks wouldn't have to press forward so much. We can play with two recognised wingers and be more in control of the game. They're saying we just don't seem to be in control of the game at all. I was watching the game against Rotherham and against Blackburn, and just thinking, you know what, I couldn't work it out. I couldn't, looking at the team in front of me there as they're playing, and players are just out of position all over the place, and you can't sort of figure it out. I think what the team needs is structure. It needs a structure putting back in place. And listen, if I can see it, Gary Cook can see it, and Wayne Rooney or the coaches can see it. If someone's being stubborn about it, then they need to stop being stubborn about it, because at the moment our club is sitting bottom of the current league table. And personally, I don't give a shit about how Wayne Rooney might feel about it, or how Gary Cook might not like to lose face or whatever. Something needs to be done. And the bad news for Wayne Rooney is that if he doesn't step down from his position and be a little bit more adaptable, then it may be him, who knows, and or Gary Cook that will be the victims in the end, and not the players. Because you can't ask these players to be Lamborghinis when they're Ford Focuses. You can't. So I think it's a tough one to sort of figure out. And you've heard what I would do, and that would be me. And that would also then accommodate Ruddy. His goalkeeping could return to normal. The back four would be much, much more comfortable. We could go back to that way of not conceding loads of goals. You know, we'd still have that nice movement up front and the press to a degree. We just have to make sure we don't get a big gap between the front four and the back four. But, you know, that's not rocket science for the coaches to work out. So that would be the way I'd go. And I think that would steady the ship and would give us a feeling of safety for a while, you know, because it just looks all over the place to me when I watch them play. It looks awful. We need to get our identity back. And at the moment, that isn't the identity. What we need to do is get through January and then see how we're doing. If we're, you know, who knows, we might even be sitting a little bit higher at the table. Just keep that system. You know, Rooney can develop it a little bit by putting the press on more with the front four, playing the back four a little bit higher up, not throwing the wingers for the fullbacks forward as an additional two wingers, because it isn't working. It's just not working. So I just ask Wayne Rooney to use his head a little bit and climb down from his position, forget his pride, look at the long term, look at his job until the end of the season. And then at the end of the season, the summer, when we can buy some players that are Lamborghinis and that aren't Ford Focuses, then we can look at it from there and hopefully take it forward. So I just thought I'd do that little podcast today just to sort of bring up a few things that we could probably chat about on the group. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you can subscribe to us and like it or make comments on our YouTube channel, it does help. It gives us the opportunity to reach a wider audience and make our group grow too. I also like to take the opportunity to thanking everyone for sticking to us and seeing the way we stick to our guns in terms of keeping the group grown up. You know, we don't want people slating each other and abusing each other on the group. And we've managed to do it pretty well so far. And over the last few weeks, when things aren't going too well for the team, I've looked at some of the other groups and it's mayhem. You know, it's really, really toxic. I just want to thank you all for being so adult about the way things are. We all get a little bit excited at times and understand that. But thanks for supporting us. And Coventry City on Friday, I've no idea what team he's going to pick. But let's just hope he sees a little bit of sense and let's return to a little bit of stability for the Blues in the short term. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Have a good evening, and we look forward to Friday and hopefully, fingers crossed, 3 points. We hope.